Something that we really wanted to avoid was to use textile in the cliché way that is usually applied in lighting, so to create lampshades. With our work, we really wanted to use light in different ways, so to reflect light, to mirror light, highlight, for instance, the changes in colors or different shades.
With this body of work, we are exploring actually the influences that happen during Renaissance time between Holland and Italy.
We have always been very much fascinated by the use of gold in Renaissance painting. And another important detail for us is in Italian Renaissance, you could totally see that the use of light was done in such a way to highlight the Virgin Mary or the saints. In the Dutch or the Flemish representations instead, the light is much more uniform and every single detail is equally as important. And I think the influences of the Dutch or the Flemish school of painting had influenced a lot the introduction of a more realistic representation of nature. So we were really much fascinated by this diversity, but also these influences. And we decided to translate them in a series of lighting objects.
So the collection that we produce within the museum is composed by 5 pieces. They start from being really goldish, one of the first piece, to become really bluish, the last one. So let's say that this is a really visual representation on the disappearing of the gold from the Renaissance painting to the Flemish one.
The difficulty is in this design is that we don't want to make it the full width of the machine. It must be 2 times bigger, and then it's about 3 meters. That means that I must make layers, and then I can cut one layer and fold it open. You also must think that you're going to weave it inside out, and that makes it beautiful, I think. That makes it interesting, technical, that it's interesting because you can weave 2 times the size of your loom.
What is just nice about it is that once you weave it, you have to just wait to find the final piece, which is actually inside and not in the outside of the textile.
So a lot of the work we have done here in the studio is actually testing the light and understanding also how to make sure that the light objects are not taking over. We still want the textile to be the central part.
The second piece we really much like is the Ellipse, that is woven with a blue textile that has a super tiny golden part in the middle, and the light source comes from the ground.
Here we really wanted to almost highlight even more the brightness of the light, which is actually enhanced by these very subtle golden threads, but it's only when the light is on that sort of comes to life. Yeah. This is the one we call the halo. The finished one will be almost 3 times bigger. It will be in the proximity of a wall, and then what we will do is to use the back as a reflector for the light, which will bounce on a wall. The test we just did is to use the braiding machine, which is usually used to just cover electric cables. No matter if the textile is covering the LEDs, making it completely uniform, the piece, the light is still shining through. And it's almost like dressing the raw materials. So it's a very interesting process, I think. One of the light we are doing is actually interacting with the architecture and in the corner, because we really wanted to have this very peripheral light. So we wove at the TextielMuseum a series of gold threads that we left very much open, which are actually basically hanging stretched. And what we will do to integrate the light is having a very thin brass beam, which is hanged from one of the threads and reflecting the light on the surface. It's really making a very ethereal lighting. The pieces, of course, have a they are very atmospheric. So instead of hoping that the people will have a sort of a cerebral engagement with the pieces, we hope they will come through as quite in an emotional way, because at the end of the day, when you play with color, textile and light, emotions are the part which are coming through the most.